No one really prepares you for motherhood or for running your own household. At least no one prepared me. And these days, when you want to learn something, what do? You ask around, but mostly you probably turn to the internet and you listen to podcasts, you read all the books, and you feel so responsible and so empowered and so informed. And while studying those things, you find everything you're supposed to be doing, especially when it comes to health, because health is really important, right? You want to take care of your body, you want your kids to grow up strong and well, so you really try to do everything right. But here's the paradox. We know so much now. There are so many tips, so much research, so many routines and rules that what you're supposed to be doing every day is actually kind of unrealistic. In this video, I want to talk a bit about why trying to do it all can backfire, and especially what helped me come out of that space where I felt like I was just constantly falling short. I still remember this season very well, and it was after I had my first baby. I felt lazy, like I was never doing enough. I thought I probably wasn't taking my health seriously enough. I probably wasn't doing enough for my baby. I was basically just drowning in all the shoots. If you're in that place, I have so much empathy for you because I know it's not a nice place to be in, and neither are all the feelings that come with it. And if you haven't been there yet, you probably will be at some point if you don't set some rules first and really think about what your priorities are to avoid it. I think it's almost inevitable in today's day and age to not bump into what I started calling a healthy living burnout. And I know it sounds a bit paradoxical, and that's just because it is. So, just you can better imagine what I'm talking about, let me give you a concrete example what I mean. It doesn't matter where you're getting your information from, whether that's from people around you, from books, from podcasts, from influencers, even. It's all the same in the end for this purpose. For me personally, I know that most of the information I consume comes from podcasts because it's really practical for me to listen to something while I'm cleaning or cooking, if the kids aren't around, of course. And I mostly listen to podcasts about health, motherhood, child development, finance. Those are just a few areas. Just school didn't prepare me for life at all. And just yesterday, I listened to a podcast with a dentist who made a great point. She said that dental health is incredibly important, and it actually doesn't take much to care for your teeth. She said if you only take 10 minutes a day, every day, so about 5 minutes to brush your teeth thoroughly, and then another five to floss properly, and just follow that up with a mouthwash, you're done. It's 10 minutes. And she said something along the lines of everybody has 10 minutes, right? You have no excuse. I promise there's a point to this story and I'll come back to it in a second. But first, I just wanted to quickly mention this sourdough focaccia I'm showing here. You might have noticed that the tray I'm using is a little smaller than usual, and that's on purpose. Lately, I've really been enjoying a thick sandwich style focaccia. Basically, it's just focaccia that bakes up a bit taller, so you can slice it horizontally and use it as sandwich bread. Because traditional focaccia is often very thin, and if you're like us and actually want some bread with your sandwich, it can sometimes feel a little too flat to hold everything together nicely. So, if you have the same preference, making a thicker focaccia is a way to go. Okay, so we were talking about how everyone has 10 minutes a day. But then imagine that the next day you listen to another podcast, and this time it's a pelvic floor specialist. And she'll say the same thing. She'll say, you only need 10 minutes a day to keep your pelvic floor in amazing shape for life, no matter the pregnancies, no matter how many kids. Just take 10 minutes a day, do your Kegels or some other exercise, and that's it. And then comes the nutritionist, and she says eating well is so important, even if you're short on time, you can still cook a healthy meal from scratch in just 10 minutes. And then the fitness coach comes in, and she says even 10 minutes of high intensity training every day will drastically improve your health. It's just 10 minutes. So, if we pause here for a second, you've got 10 minutes for your teeth, 10 minutes for your pelvic floor, 10 minutes for your perfect meal, 10 minutes for your workout. And we're not done yet, probably. There are probably 100 other 10-minute habits you should be doing every day in, day out. And they start to stack up, and they stack up really, really fast. Pretty soon, you don't just have 10 minutes here and there, you've got a whole day filled with things you're supposed to be doing for your optimal mental, physical, and spiritual health. And what's paradoxical about it is that all this effort you're putting in those habits slowly starts making you feel unhealthy because you're probably not sleeping enough, trying to do all those healthy things. You're not present for your family. You constantly feel like you're falling short. And a quote that comes to mind here is that the road to hell is paved with good intentions. And I wish there was a simple way to avoid all that. And in a way, it is actually simple, but it's not easy. So, the solution, at least in my experience, is to be really clear on what your priorities are, to be ruthless with planning your days, and to make peace with the fact that priorities are not a fixed thing throughout your life, probably. If you're confused about what you're watching me do in the video right now, I don't blame you. So, the dough that I'm rolling out is a sourdough discard pasta dough, and I'm attempting to make ravioli with it. Recently, I saw a very funny looking rolling pin at a nearby thrift store. And of course, when I went back to buy it, it was already gone. So I looked it up on Amazon and they actually had it. First, I read what it was supposed to do, and I was really intrigued enough that I ordered it straight away. And I've made ravioli before, and it's definitely a labor of love. They are delicious, but time consuming. So I just didn't do them very often. This is actually only my second time doing them using this pin, so if I'm a bit clumsy with it, that's why. And this time I made a really simple filling just with some ricotta, Parmesan cheese, salt, pepper, and I think I added an egg there as well. I'll link the recipe down below so you can print it out if you want. I'll also link the rolling pin I ordered if I'll be able to find it. I hope they still have it. So I'm making the filling here and then I'll make the actual ravioli with the rolling pin so you can watch and see how that goes. So if we go back to setting your priorities, the first thing I have to say is that as you grow and learn and get older and hopefully wiser, it's natural for the priorities to shift a bit. And you don't need to feel bad about that. So, first, when it comes to choosing your priorities, be really honest with yourself and realize you probably don't have time to do everything that seems so important right now. Because I know it's tempting to want everything to be perfect. For me, for example, I'd say my priorities are my family, our emotional and physical health, and freedom, as cheesy as it sounds. And by freedom, I mean being able to live on my own terms and make my own choices, which means I'll probably need to make some smart financial choices so I don't have to trade all my time for money if I want that freedom. And that's already a lot I'm putting on my plate. And usually, priorities are a lot, at least if you really want to apply them to the way you live your life. For example, if I say my health is my priority, which happens to be true, suddenly there's so many things that can potentially fall under that. So it's my dental health, my pelvic floor health, my skincare. Probably I'll need to put sunscreen on each inch of my body when the sun peeks from the clouds. All the small things you find out that you should be doing when you say that. And realistically, again, that just won't work. So even when you do pick your priorities, you have to avoid the all or nothing mindset because you can be flexible. You can say, yes, health is my priority, but I'm not going to be a perfectionist about it. I'll try to eat healthy, I'll move my body enough, cover the most important bases when it comes to health, but I also have other things that are important to me too. So maybe I won't bother with putting on sunscreen in the middle of the winter, let's say, because that would just lead right back to burnout. Also, when you're setting your priorities, don't be afraid if they're different from what society tells you they should be. And don't be afraid if only the way you apply those priorities to your life looks a little bit different too. So, for example, for my husband and I, spending time together as a couple has always been a huge priority since before we had kids. And it was actually a lot easier back then, of course. Now we just make sure we're around each other a lot. My husband works from home most of the time, which means we can have lunch together every day. And because we set this priority, he worked really hard to find a job that paid well and allowed him to work remotely. And we put in effort to build a life where we can actually spend time together. And I know that's not something society really promotes. Furthermore, for us, having a goal to spend time with each other doesn't necessarily mean date nights. We actually currently don't even do date nights. Sure, it would be nice, and we'll probably start doing them when the kids are a bit older, but right now we just cherish the evenings with the kids usually. But we do spend time together during the day. We spend an hour or two together after bedtime every day, and it's when we're actually present, not just in the same room. And that's how I feel like I live in alignment with my priorities. And again, you may wish for something totally different, but the principles of choosing that are the same. That's what I'm trying to say. So, just to sum up this quite rambly video, I guess, one, it's important to choose your own priorities, and you're allowed to have your own. Don't copy someone else's just because you feel pressured. Don't think too much about the society standards. Two, think outside the box. You don't have to follow the standard way of living out that priority. Maybe lunch together every day is your date night, and that's okay. And the last thing I want to say here is a lot of things are possible in this world. Again, as cheesy as that sounds. And in no way I wish to sound entitled when I say that. I realize I live in a country with great healthcare, good social systems, and as a woman, I realize I have freedoms not many women in general in the world have. And maybe it's because of all the options some of us have nowadays, it's even more important to come back to our priorities. So just don't limit yourself. Don't assume the options you see are the only ones, or the options other people are choosing are the only ones. Your idea of freedom might look different from mine or someone else's. And even when you have your priorities you feel good about, live them in a way that feels true to you. Now we're going back to my kitchen for a little bit. Amidst all the chaos, you're seeing me try to make a layered chocolate cake with fruit, which is one of those desserts we only ever do in the summer, just because we usually have a lot of peaches to use up, and mostly we make it with peaches. And honestly, it's just such a refreshing dessert. It's meant to be served cold, so you can make it the day before, and it only gets better overnight in the fridge. And you don't have to stick to peaches. You can use cherries or any other fruit really you happen to have in abundance. On this particular day, I had some canned mangoes and a random canned fruit mix that needed using up, so that's what I used. And I made this dessert for my son's birthday this time, which we celebrated that week, and I'll add just a little footage of that in the end. You can make this dessert right in a baking pan, so it's really practical to make it as a birthday cake. You just cover the top with chocolate, write something on it, stick some candles in, and honestly, I think it's better than a lot of the fancy cakes, even. So I guess the point of this video is that no one really tells you about healthy living burnout. It doesn't always come from doing the wrong things. It comes from trying to do everything right, actually. And the real way to deal with it isn't doing it all. It's in knowing what matters to you and letting the rest go. It's in choosing your own priorities and giving yourself permission to live them out in your own way. Because at the end of the day, it's your life. And if someone doesn't agree with your choice, well, it won't be their regret if you don't follow your own path. It will be yours. And although we probably can't avoid regrets entirely, we can be picky. So pick the regrets you can live with. So be picky about your priorities, your time, the people you surround yourself with, and even with your regrets. I hope I gave you some inspiration today, or at least some food for thought. Please like and subscribe if you like this video. Comment down below what are your thoughts about this, and I hope to see you again next week. Bye!